a strategy that I'm aware of. There are people that have had paid websites for years, but they've come up with a whole vision of what they think the paid model might look like and why they're doing it, and how tablets and mobile fits in and all that. I said, we've got to have somebody from this company to come speak to this group. So I was glad Grant was able to come and be with us today. So I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thanks, Jack. You know, it's interesting. I was at the NAA convention, which we had in Dallas, and probably some of you attended last week, and I had multiple people come up to me saying, boy, how's it going? You know, what you all are doing sure is risky. And I said, boy, that's interesting, because from the seat we sit in, what you're doing is extremely risky. And so it was I can't tell you how many conversations I had, you know, over those 4 days. And I think when we really got down to brass tacks, many of them said, I agree with you. And so part of what I want to talk to you about today is why we think that a greater risk is not taking a paid content model to market, and specifically why we did it, how we did it, and then I'll give you a little bit of an update, as much as I can, about how it's going. You know, as Jack mentioned, we went to a registration format to begin the test here on January 18th, and then on the 8th of March is when we officially went paid. I want to kind of set the scene a little bit of just the way we see it. I mean, you know, 15 years ago when we gave away our content for free online, there was definitely a belief that the horse had left the stable, and many people have told, you know, I think where they thought we were risky, saying, boy, you know, I don't think you can get it back. You know, we, just as many of you in this room are doing today and have done, especially in a market the size of Dallas, we thought we could play in the game of mass audiences. By the way, you'll learn I'm not very good about following a deck slide, so this one looks pretty corporate, and I'll try to keep it a little bit more lively. But you know, I think the point is we just saw many reasons why the mass game, I think, worked early on. I'll share some data that I don't have in writing here intentionally, but I think it's helpful for you all to understand. We only monetized in the past about, last year we monetized 66% of our website. You know, we were a 45 million page view website per month, and we were, when I say monetized, I'm talking about premium $8, $9 CPM, not remnant. But to monetize 66% of it, we realized, you know, boy, we could trim this audience back and really not lose a meaningful dollar and probably have a lot to gain. At the same time, out of that audience, out of our unique visitors in 2010, almost 70% of the uniques came from outside of our DMA. You know, lots of search engine traffic, lots of Wikipedia-like traffic, you know, if you will. You know, I came into this job just 5 months ago, and as I started looking at it, you know, this strategy had already, was well on its way, but I just kept looking at Jim Maroney, you know, our publisher, saying, boy, I get it, I get it, I get it. There is not a long-term sustainable business strategy for a market like Dallas, Texas, who's geographically bounded to play in the game of mass impressions online. So, you know, over these 15 years, digital advertising has grown. I think the reason why I mentioned the ratio of our audience and our audience that was coming in from outside of the market, even though it was roughly 70% of the uniques, still it was about 50-50 on page views, 50% of them from outside, 50% on inside. So we said we need to go look and focus on our DMA and own it digitally the way we've owned it in print, or we don't have a long-term sustainable business model. To give you some ideas on numbers, if for the page views we had last year in impressions, if we were to sell out the entire site, I'm not talking about 66% sell-through rates, I'm talking about 100%, we would generate $17 million in ad revenue. $17 million in ad revenue does not cover the cost of just our newsroom. So what we're trying to hold on to, and where people are saying you're taking a big risk, if we don't find another business model to help us generate revenue, not that I'm saying we've got about a 330-person newsroom at the Dallas Morning News. We know that it will not be a 330-person newsroom in 5 years, but we know that we need to have our sustainable competitive advantage in media, we believe as a newspaper in Dallas, is the size, the quality, and the focus of enterprise journalism, investigative journalism, and what we can do with a larger newsroom. So even though it's not may not be 330, we have to figure out what size that can be. So as we put all these thoughts together and realize the future doesn't look very good even at 100% sell-through rate, and I'll be real honest with you for the business people in the room, no, I am not getting a $10 CPM on web-based advertising. It's definitely more in the realm of $7 to $7.50 a thousand. But with that said, there was no business model there. So we decided that effective this quarter, we wanted to start a subscriber content strategy. What we have is a I might even try to get a little bit more visible here, but just kind of visual. As I mentioned, January 18th, registration went into place. We launched an iPhone app on January 13th. We launched our new iPad app on the 19th. As I was mentioning to Bill last night at dinner, we have gone with the New York Times press engine. So ours is kind of the templated approach, which allowed us to get to market faster and cheaper, but also in a way that we could save money, but also get out there with a product that we're extremely proud of. We are going to launch Android in probably about end of May, beginning of June. What we're trying to do with our subscriber content strategy is to limit access, and I'm going to give you some visuals here in a second, but I mean, the baseline of it is whatever content we have that's truly proprietary. Let's think about enterprise journalism, investigative journalism. Those are columnists. I mean, all of these are things that we are putting, and I'm trying to abolish the term paywall because it's just not the right way to look at it. And so we really think of it as premium content and really subscriber content. But what is premium content are those things that are ours and we own them. Obviously, you can go to the other extreme and anything that's off the wire. Why in the world would we put that behind the wall? Because it just doesn't really make any sense to do that at all. What resides in the middle is breaking news. And if maybe we are the first to break a story. We believe that breaking news is something that's what people expect in a website. It's what people want out of a website, and it's something that most likely, even if we did break it first, especially in the web world, 15 minutes down the road, 30 minutes down the road, it's no longer going to be just ours. So the breaking news stories, even if they're local, are also free.
Breaking stories are free, is that what you said?
Breaking news is free, yes. The value and benefit as a subscriber is if you're going to share articles, we can share it off our website, we can share it off our tablet, off our apps on either smartphone or tablet. But when you share a story, that shared experience, even if you share a premium content article, that person who you share it with can also see that entire article. We are, I don't know where I put it here, but the search engines have been a little bit of a debate. The New York Times, when they launched this week, they have what they call first click free. There's initially, part of what's difficult when you put up a paywall is you still want to get some type of sampling out there. You need somewhere where people understand what is the value of that premium content so they can decide for themselves, is it premium or not? So I say that because we are in the middle of a giant debate within the Dallas Morning News of what do we do with the search engines. Our first move has been absolutely not. If it's a premium content article, and we write a content article about the fact that Parkland Hospital which is one of the larger hospital chains in Dallas, we have been all over them lately because it's just been a very rough go and kind of a lack of oversight at their hospital and have had quite a bit of problems. But I said, well, I don't want somebody to be able to type in Parkland Hospital, Dallas Morning News, and if they go to our site and they realize they can't get it, but then they can go to Google and just type in Parkland Hospital, Dallas Morning News, and then they can get into it. I said, that's not a wall, or it's really not premium content that's exclusive, but that's the only issue right now that we're debating. So right now, we are not allowing people in that way. We may move to a first click free. We'll see. So here's a little bit of what it looks like. When you go to our site today, and I don't know, it looks like it's a little bit out of focus. I don't know if you all can see it or if my eyes are just starting to go on me here a little bit today. But this logo in lowercase d is what we put next to our, our premium content. So anything in the site with a D on it, we have really trained, done a lot of marketing. We've got it, up here in kind of a 728 by 90 that we've got below the nav bar to help people understand what is it, what is premium content, what is not premium content, what makes it premium content, and then as it would flow here, and here is one that was actually, we took a screenshot before, but there's probably D's on about 50% of the articles as you're scrolling through the site. We have, really, we did a site simplification this year. We don't call it a redesign, and I think part of what we've tried to do is, because we were going premium, we didn't want to do anything radical or extremely different on a site redesign. We said, let's take it one piece at a time. Let's get subscriber content in, let's get them used to it, and then we'd start really changing some things in a more dynamic way on the site. The D here, this is if you are not a subscriber and you click on a D, you drop to something like this. You've got a Dillard's Real Estate, Idea Lives Retail Stocks. You get nothing but the first 50 words of an article. And then once you have those first, here are the first 50 words up here, but then you are asked to subscribe. If you don't subscribe, we currently don't have the ability to just look at a single article. I know that the New York Times has also done the same thing right now. I think that's kind of probably the second generation of what we'll do with subscriber content. But right now, it is really an all or nothing once you hit that paid wall. Part of what we know we have to do, and this is something that Jack mentioned when he came to Utah with us, was we have to keep putting new products out there in the market, or we have to find ways to make what we're doing better. Otherwise, it's difficult to call it premium, and your readers will let you know very quickly that they don't consider it premium. We launched, on the 19th with the what we call the flagship app, but we also have 7 other what we call niche apps in development right now. We were discussing last night a little bit. We have one, High School Sports in Texas I've been there now for 10 years, and I was just amazed when I first got there. It is absolutely just a way of life. High school sports overall is going to be our first app that we'll launch in April. We also have an 18 to 34-year-old entertainment publication called Quick. We're going to have a Quick app that comes out in April. We're also going to have our restaurant critic is very well known in Dallas and very controversial. We're going to have what we call a Best In app that will be relaunched in May. And part of what we're trying to do with these niches is find a place where we can own a unique audience in Dallas-Fort Worth. But what we're trying to do is really test, and even before an app, I think as Bill said this morning, everyone can just say, oh, I need an app. It's amazing right now. My team on the development side, we get inundated with probably 3 to 5 requests a week saying, oh, I need an app, and then I need an app for this, and I need an app for this. And part of what we keep pushing them back to are 5 simple questions to say, okay, do you need an app? Or do you need to add something to your website? I mean, there's a process, and I'll go through that a little bit towards the end if we have time on how we do that. But that's where we're really trying to make sure that what we're doing with app development makes sense. This is just a screenshot here on our iPhone app. Again, as I mentioned, this is our New York Times press engine. What we've done Inside these apps right now, we've got a drop down here where you click on sections. We've got about 15 different sections inside of our iPad app. There are, it's interesting. The struggle sometimes with an app is you just try to keep adding section after section after section after section, and you think it should be an absolute duplicate of what you're doing in the newspaper or on your website. And what we've found, and I think it's an interesting point, is we have people who want to add those sections of the site. How do we choose them? Well, we simply go into Omniture and find out which sections of our website have the greatest traffic and have the greatest demand, and those are what go onto our app. I know Anju was talking about that they do this at the Washington Post as well, and it becomes some very difficult conversations with some of your editors or some of your columnists or whoever you're saying, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is not just load up the kitchen sink into our app, but load up only those areas of content that the people and the readers have shown in a digital format that they demand the most. We are just now starting to get section level and story level data out of the app. So what we're going to do is we followed the digital model from the site to get them in, and then what we're going to do is only keeping the things in the app, obviously, once that data is being collected on a monthly basis, to keep it there. Wanted to kind of just give you, I'll not bore you too much with kind of the business strategy of it, but part of what we had to do was decide, okay, well, how do you decide how to price these bundles? What is the right price? What's not the right price? We have worked very hard on with a group called the Modelers on what should our prices be. What should we do for a full digital subscription? How much should we do for an app-only subscription? And in a lot of that modeling, we did some price elasticity studies to understand, okay, what are people willing to pay? But then also, we couldn't ignore the print model of our business as well to figure out, okay, what was the correlation there? So our total digital package per month is $17, and that gives you full access to the website as well as both iPhone and tablet apps. That is also compared with kind of our smaller packages, which is you can do app only for $9.99. These are aggressive prices depending on how you look at it, or they're not aggressive prices depending on how you look at it. I know I'm a big golf fan, and every time I want to go download the latest issue of Golf Digest, it's $5. Well, I mean, so you can get a week for that much, or you can just sit and say, okay, I've got 30 days for $17. I mean, that's one way to look at it. Obviously, the daily is much cheaper with their model, but there is a piece of what we're doing which is protecting the print product, and that's part of why the migration off has been the fact that you can get it in one place for free. Then why should you go pay to get it from somewhere else? And the way I can draw that and best connect it to you is a Sunday only subscription to the Dallas Morning News is also $17. So you can either have a Sunday only print, or why wouldn't you take your Sunday only and add the other 6 days of the week so that you can also get your digital news from us at the same time, regardless of format.
If you're a Sunday-only subscriber, do you get the digital included?
Now you do, yes. And I'm kind of an interesting, let me take back to one screenshot here. We've got this widget here on the home page, which is a little 300 by 100, which is kind of our marketing ribbon for subscriptions. And we've had this on the site where it used to be print only, and we have it on there. We've had it on there for a long time, for over a year. Off of this marketing ribbon alone, we averaged about 300 new print subscriptions a month off the site. The minute we went to paid, we went from 300 new subscriptions a month to 1,700 new subscriptions so far this month. And out of those, out of that 1,700, only about 400 of them were app only. So there are a lot of them who are saying, boy, yeah, I'll take that Sunday only plus all of the digital and have it all together. And so we'll see. It's an early spike of seeing some print come back because it is only one day, but I think as many of us know, a lot of people, when we do our research to know why are you giving up your print subscription, it's because it piles up, and it's either an environmental concern or it's a security concern or what have you.
Have you found that, have your online comments that got much better since you put Payside?
I'm sorry, he was walking by right when you were.
Have your online comments got much more civil since you put on Payside, and has that helped them get more subscribers?
Yeah, I'll give you two viewpoints on that. First of all, to answer your question directly, absolutely. We don't have as many, spend as much time editing a lot of the vulgarity that often came out in the comments section. I think my team has said they spend probably 70% less time really policing the comments section than they did before. But to Mr. Siegenthaler's earlier point, the day we announced that we were going to a premium content and paid content model, I have 160 pages of printouts of comments basically telling us to go to hell. So it was as quickly as they could support him. We also know that the opinion has been there telling us how upset people are about the changes that we're making.
Brent, you may have explained this. Is there a digital only price that's less than the print, or is the Sunday only?
For the all-inclusive, what I consider like a platinum package, it's the same. It's $17.
Whether you get the Sunday or not, you're going to pay the
Yeah, you're not forced to take that Sunday paper. We don't want to just add junk circulation. It's an option, but we said, hey, well, while you're paying it, why wouldn't you? But we do obviously then drop down to a $9.99 if you want to be app only.
Oh, okay.
Or you could be site only for $9.99.
Well, that's a little different than New York Times, too. I understand they were having people want the Sunday delivery or the weekend delivery, but they didn't want the delivery. They just wanted to pay because it was cheaper than the digital.
Yeah, we're not trying to game that part of it. We're just trying to see if there can be some retention or growth there now that they know they can't get all that news for free.
I love this little notation you have. I do not want access to the e-edition. Please lower my monthly price by 1 cent.
So they went the other way.
We have we follow the iTunes comments every day. That's the beauty of it. So what a lot of people ask us is, well, what happens to your site traffic? When you do this, and our page views have gone down about 38% year over year since going paid. We had forecasted, as I mentioned to you, we only sold 66% of our pages last year, anyway, and especially at this time of year, actually our sell-through rates were only in about the 55% range. So even with that drop in the 40% range on page views, it has not dipped into our ability to fulfill all of the impressions that our advertisers are asking us to deliver. Now, I mean, if you look at a bar chart, this was the time of year we wanted to launch this because it's the time where we had our least amount of sell-through rate or advertiser demand. So what we've done is, we know that we've got a lot of work to do here to go build back up that audience by the time we hit November, because traditionally our site, like most major metro sites, have only been sold out just in November and December every year. Otherwise, there's a great deal of remnant.
What dropped 38%?
Page views on DallasNews.com.
Website.
Yes.
And so that's behind the paywall as well as the apps.
Well, the home page. I mean, the only thing that's behind the wall is the content, is the articles. Yeah, is the articles. I mean, and that's much different, Bill, to, I was sitting in a presentation at NAA from Paul Smurl at the New York Times, and even though their metered paywall is 20 page views per month, it's really not, because a section front's not considered a page view, the home page is not considered a page view, nor is a blog front considered a page view. So the metered model and our model, are quite a bit different, yes.
Is there a unique digital content only that you can't get in television?
There is, yeah, there is, and specifically on the, much more so on the iPad. We've really made sure that we're loading up what is that premium content. I mean, I think something I glossed over, which we thought was not going to be the case. The reason why we really went paid is when you pull up this device, we did it for the tablet, because if you can go into the Safari browser and go to dallasnews.com for free versus having to pay for an app, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you're going to go straight in, through that browser. And so what we're doing initially is we're adding 2 major content pieces, and they will be out on April 15th inside our app. One is right now called, it's already there, it's just not there in quite the HTML5 rich environment that we're going to have on April 15th. But one's called The Big Story. And what we do is on our evening, we do 3 updates a day to our iPad unless there is a giant breaking story, and then we just go in and add another update. But we really only update at, 5 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. because, as Bill showed, we want to take advantage of those morning, that big traffic in the morning. But then what we do, add something called The Big Story at 6 p.m. in the evening, which is saying, here's what is the biggest story of the day if you live in Dallas, Texas. And what we're doing is taking current content and adding archive information, graphics, and what have you to try to say, here is a real well-rounded and packaged look at what is the most important thing we think you should know about today. We also are in development of something called Boldface Dallas, which is we've argued, and I think there have been some interesting points this morning. It's a celebrity, app is really what it is. But we're saying, who are Dallas celebrities? And initially, we're going to launch with a very deep background on the top 100 business or Hollywood-like celebrities in Dallas. Mark Cuban, Jerry Jones, Ebby Holiday is a major real estate mogul in Dallas. Jessica Simpson's in Dallas. I mean, so we're taking all those people and looking at a multitude of things about them, such as what do they wear, what do they drive, where do they live, what charities are they involved with, where were they seen this week with shots of them. But then what we're also trying to do is tie them all together, that if you're new to Dallas or you really want to understand who the bold-faced big names are in Dallas and what they do, we're going to also kind of do 6 degrees of separation, or 7 from Kevin Bacon type thing, and say, these folks all sit on the same board, or these folks actually all support the same charity, or they live in the same neighborhood, and that is going to be iPad only, because we think that this device tells that story so well and so richly that we may then go back and extend it to the web if we find. But I think part of what we're trying to do is just see, test some things and really play with some things to see what we can do to make it as premium an experience as we can on the tablet.
How often are you going to update that celebrity content, and how are you resourcing that?
We have a celebrity columnist who's been with us for a long time named Alan Peppard, and Alan has gone in and spent the past 3 months just writing a bunch of dossiers about and just doing a ton of research to get to the first 100. Alan has committed to us. I mean, the hard part is if you get into too big of a group, they're not really celebrities, because the whole point of Boldface Dallas is these are people whose name is in bold when you see them in print. Alan thinks that there are about 250 to 275 people who we'd really want in Dallas, and our goal is, Corey, to get to that kind of critical mass by beginning of fourth quarter, so that we keep adding.
Like a database of sorts, or is it like, is there going to be live content off of the news around these people?
Yeah, there's going to be. I mean, like for example, like any of the new latest live photos, are going to be circulated in there. There's kind of a piece to it that's going to be, kind of where are they now, and there's going to be a little bit of a live piece, but most of it is going to be just to be kind of doing more playing around of some more archive-like content or things. But he's got himself and a team of 2 others who are going to be kind of watching this and just kind of keep feeding it.
Whose idea was that?
That was an idea that came out of the conference that Jack came to in Snowbird, Utah, and I think part of what we did was a giant digital storytelling conference, and the whole point was we brought about 40 people together who were everything from called Tech Wildcatters in Dallas. I mean, people who had nothing. Some people were just technology people. Some people were newspaper people. Some people we had authors who were just did nothing but write books. So I'll hit you first.
Okay, I'm just curious, as you go to tab-specific content, which is very, very interesting to me, how do you feed that out of a CMS? You're creating dynamic content exclusively for that particular device. How does that move across? It's fed through something.
It's fed through the CMS. We're on Newsgate and Ascenic. Yeah, and just feeds.
How are you feeding it just to the one, not to the other?
We just have separate feeds. Yeah.
And that includes feeds for multimedia, because I've looked at your app. So that feed is a very broad-based feed that you create specifically for the big story of the day, and it allows you to include graphics, video, slideshows, all of that.
Exactly. We have a team of 4 people who are just exclusively devoted to the tablet, because we have a few things that we do differently there. If you're even scrolling, because you can download it for free, and if you even scroll, you'll notice in each of what we call iSummaries, we actually summarize the story. It's not just your first 75, 80, 100 words that's cut off before it comes out of it. But no, we do a lot of just editing specifically for it. Also, too, because our feeds are separate, because we're feeding to the smartphone. Boy, we're updating every 5-10 minutes versus only 3 updates to the tablet.
I was going to ask you, do you consider making a role-based things into a game? Like, games is a big thing. Are you going to plans for that as well?
No, but I mean we've talked about how can you get it to where somebody gets so many points if they really understand who are all the big names, and if they change. Who's also, we were thinking about getting points for if you take a picture of them that's the best picture, and then that kind of refreshes our content. They could get points for that, or gift cards for that, or what have you. But it could be. It's definitely an update. I think people were scared about what that could create, but I think it's a great idea.
I'm curious about this boldface. It's like your journalistic standards, I guess, and monetizing it in terms of like some publications do. Where are you going to talk about? Oh, all these people are going to X in restaurants and getting some kind of product placement kind of monetization.
It's interesting. The people who we've talked to about it, and it's funny because Alan, I said who's been covering this for 25 years, he's actually the one who has been getting our salespeople in with a lot of the advertisers who just want to be near his stuff. But it is the trendiest of the trendy places in Dallas. I don't know if you've been to Dallas. There's a place called Highland Park Village. And the folks who own Highland Park Village, because it's the place to be seen for shopping, they, and as well as the Mercedes dealer down the street, as well as the Aston Martin dealer, people are already kind of scrambling for it, and all we're doing is kind of showing them some mock-ups.
But that's not. Is that adjacency, or is that like participatory in the story?
It's just no. It's just adjacency. I mean, the ad positions we have are section front of a 728 by 90, and then inside our story level there's a 300 by 600. But no, there's no. The content is not for sale. Let's see here. We've done a lot of kind of reorganization. I won't get into that too much. I think the one thing that I will mention though is when you go into a strategy like this, we're also a Yahoo reseller. Newspaper. We're part of the consortium, which I don't know how many of you in this room are, but if you don't have another product to sell, and if you don't have more inventory to sell somewhere else, it's also a bit of a risky move for a sales force, because part of what we've done is we've already kind of pre-packaged our digital advertising to say now the DallasNews.com and our apps, these are, using a television term, these are prime time. And you can also then, though, buy us, you can buy Yahoo as fringe. And you can, get some of that lower CPM and bring down your prices by selling, a combination of the two. One thing I just really wanted to touch on, and focus on for a few minutes is, if you don't we have spent over $2.5 million to market this launch. This is not something we felt could just be a bunch of house ads in the newspaper. It couldn't just be Spadias on top of the paper. It couldn't be, run a site going through dallasnews.com. I mean, the point that we were trying to do is make a statement in the market with the launch of the apps as well as premium content to make us look and feel like the biggest game in town. And so the objective of it is to launch the new digital platforms. It's to make people aware of what our premium content, that we have premium content, that now we have, we're doing things in print right now, which is, boy, at the end, you get to the end of a, Texas Rangers opening day is today, and I was just on emails this morning making sure that we want to cross-promote back to the fact that the tablet and the website both have will have a slideshow gallery from the game as well as interviews, in the locker room after the game. So there's a lot of cross-promotion, back and forth that we're trying to do. But before we even got to that, we, have done everything. This right here, the city's best journalists have been mobilized. This is on the entire side of one of the biggest buildings in downtown Dallas. We have those also in billboards. We're running digital, not on our site, but on all the other key, websites and influential sites in Dallas. These are newspaper ads we have, and then we have run over about 300 GRPs of television in prime time in a week over that time, and all of the biggest, most viewed. We were on the Super Bowl. We were on American Idol. I mean, we're everywhere. And I think the point is, if we feel good about it and if we feel bold about it, then we really need to market it. And I know that, not all of us, have the kind of cash flow these days, to make this happen. But someone was asking me a question over lunch this morning, over lunch earlier, saying, well, but is this a print strategy or is this a digital strategy? And I said, well, the point of what we're doing is, if we don't do this while there's still meaningful cash flow coming out of print, you don't have the type of ability to reinvest and launch this before it's too late. And we felt exactly to the point of Bill's presentation earlier today, we feel like this device, meaning the iPad, is the game changer for us to, this is as good a time as any. People are being desensitized to even, at least open their minds to being willing to pay for content. And so we're just jumping on it while we still have the cash flow coming out of print to fund things like a $2.5 million marketing campaign. I wanted to show a little bit of, these are our new ways that we measure success, on our, both on the website and within our apps, which is much different than how it used to be success with how many page views can you get? How many impressions do we have? Are we the biggest site in Dallas? I mean, we don't care if we're the biggest site in Dallas anymore. We just really don't. It doesn't matter. We can be the biggest site in Dallas, but if we're not making any money, it's not a very meaningful thing to be, touting. So we look at time spent per visit, number of local page views. Everything we're doing is, if we're not growing local, we're failing at our strategy. Number of local uniques, number of local registered users is critically important, and obviously the number of paid subscribers. Number of visits per week per subscriber, how frequently are they coming back? And then same types of things in the app. Frequency of use, average session length, number of downloads, number of monthly active users, and page views. And one thing that that Bill mentioned this morning, which was not on this one, but is and then how frequently do they come back? Is it once a day, or are they coming back close to twice a day? And monitoring those types of things as well. Our bottom line is, we have to have adoption and we have to have engagement. And we're working to drive engagement, as I mentioned, through kind of that cross-promoting, of information, across our platform, like what we've done in print this morning, to make sure that people understand that they can go see the full slideshow or video, on the different devices. We're doing a lot of session, path reporting. Corey and I were talking about this last night. At least in our experience with Omniture, is Omniture's not allowing us to get enough pathing data out of our website to understand, okay, well, if they went here, then where else do they go? Or who are those flyby audiences versus who are really those loyal audiences? We also want to understand inside the apps, okay, well, not only how many page views were in each section, but which sections are actually seeing that same user go and experience both sides of it. It's much more difficult to do, we're learning, inside the apps than it is on the website, but it's something that we just are going to keep digging and digging until we can find it. I'll be real honest with you, we are not we're not very savvy right now on our social media. I've enjoyed having some conversations with some of you this week and some folks at NAA who are. It's something we really want to improve. Fascinating. I feel like the Washington Post probably has the best social integration inside their app, but I won't rat you out, but maybe it's not the most successful thing in the end, but at least it seems cool from the outside. I think to the cost point, I think that Bill made this morning is the cost to develop an app is expensive. We did spend in the ballpark of some of the figures that he mentioned this morning to build out our flagship apps, although a little bit cheaper because we were able to go with more of a templated approach through the New York Times Press Engine. I will, though, say there are a lot of local developers in, at least in our community. We're very blessed in Dallas because we just have a kind of a real groundswell of a community and app development there who are very good at what they do, although can't handle something as big as one of the major projects like our flagship. But we're spending more in the ballpark of about $40,000 to build out these niche apps. That's just to develop. Now there's a cost to maintain as well. But the one thing that we're wrestling with quite a bit is as we do develop apps over all of these platforms, boy, how do you balance your time between how slick do you make that your website look? I mean, what can you do in HTML5 and really kind of bring more of that mobile web experience versus apps? But I mean, I think really our mindset is as long as Steve Jobs can be and Apple can be the geniuses in marketing they are to make us feel like as users that we have to go through an app, then we'll build it. I mean, if that's how people want it, then we're going to build it, and not get too caught up, on the expense side as long as we're showing a strong ROI. We also, just for the record, we don't stay up at night worrying about the 30% that Apple's looking for. I think it's kind of the other piece of it where we say, you know what, if that's the marketplace that they've built and it's where we have to go, we can either sit up at night and worry about it, or just say, okay, that's the cost to entry through that way of delivering content. But again, as long as they can keep stimulating demand, we just have decided we're just not going to waste any time worrying about it. We are concerned about the data piece, though. We stay up at night worrying about our ability to capture the data. And part of what we're doing as well is it sounds so basic here, at the end, but I'd say the last point that I can make that we keep doing is that we've got such a readers first mentality. It may not sound like a readers first mentality because all of a sudden we just told everybody now that they're going to that everything has to be paid. But I think the point is we're trying to preserve the quality of journalism that all of us in here, and it's what I love about just what I've learned about the Freedom Forum today is we have to find a way to make this work within a business model of people who are truly devoted to quality journalism. And this model did not seem like to the 160 pages of people who decided that they want to say whoever's leading this thing at the Dallas Morning News is an idiot. But it's now a new world, and now we've entered it and we've crossed that threshold. But every decision that we're making now, and I've never seen a mindset like this in terms of the change in the newsroom, but people are going back to the data and they're going back to what does the consumer say, what does the consumer say, and what is the consumer saying, and the adoption within the newsroom and the company of making sure that as long as we're following what the audience wants and that they're willing to pay for, then we think that we've hit. We already saw, as I told you, you saw about a 42% drop even back on the website with going paid. The way, if you do the modeling on this, you'll see the same thing all over the country. Or around the world. London has done a lot more of these than we have. But when you drop down by 40% on page views, you hit that bottom, and then everyone within 6 months gradually comes back to being somewhere between 20 and 25% down on their audience. But people will come back, and I think the good news is everything that we have forecasted financially and in terms of audience, it's proven true to us. So thanks for the time. I'd love to. Any more questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, this is a question. So, you talked about how much of your audience is outside of your, your DMA, basically. Have you found ways to monetize that audience? And in the ads that you're selling, could you make money just by selling to Dallas-only businesses, or do you need that national advertising to make it?
We need the national advertising to make it as well. I mean, there's the national. There's probably 4 or 5 real buying agencies who own that space, and but with some of them, we're able to say, when they go in and target it, we say, some of what we're doing right now is saying, you know what, we'll give you a $2 a thousand break, but we're only going to send you outside the DMA, and it doesn't work for many of them because they're buying a spot market like Dallas and they want it. But the hard part is in the past for a lot of people who just even local advertisers who weren't buying very savvy, we had a fair share of them that their ads were serving in Seattle, Washington. It's like, what a waste. But again, they'd never asked the question I want it to be targeted just in Dallas. And so then you're gaming the system saying, oh, we served the impression, but your conversion rates, your click-throughs are horrible, and it just doesn't make any sense. So we are, with the national campaigns, though, we are still able to serve enough of that outside the DMA where we're still not sold out just inside the impressions we're delivering inside the DMA.
So are you selling the apps separately from the website, from print? How are you doing all those?
The apps in terms of the packaging?
Yeah.
Okay, I may not have made it very clear. So just to give you an idea, too, our pricing for a 7-day subscription home delivery is extremely high. We're about $36 a month. So for a 7-day-a-week home subscription. When you go to a digital-only package, you're at $16.95 for all of them. You can peel them off a la carte for $9.99.
I'm thinking more from do you have advertising?
Oh, from an advertising standpoint.
Right.
Oh, from an advertising. Oh, absolutely. The way that we're selling our apps.
Separately to the advertiser than the website or print.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're all sold independent of one another. The one thing I think that we were even touching on this morning a little bit is especially those people who are buying apps from us right now, it's a 25% share of voice sponsorship model, so we could have 4 of them at a time. But the click-through, we have a 728 by 90, and as I said, we have a 300 by 600. The 300 by 600, we've had click-through rates as high as 16% in the 300 by 600. And part of it is, people say, oh, well, your click-throughs are higher because it opens the ad when I'm scrolling. But if that was the case, we should have seen a drop after these people use the app more and more often. It's gone down a little bit, but not. It's still in the 16% on the high. They're still right around 10, 11% click-throughs on that big, bold 300 by 600 ad unit.
And was it hard to get the sales staff to do that? What I find is that they're always wanting to add on, as opposed to focus and sell one particular product.
They kind of have to in your apps because the creative is in HTML5 and most of the advertisers don't have it. So it's truly a separate conversation because there's an entire conversion that has to take place for those ads. And I would strongly encourage you, those of you who do not have apps yet, but I would get I would scour your market for a solid HTML5 skilled person for design because we've got one in-house and it has saved us a ton of money from at the beginning. We are outsourcing it to companies who are just, converting creative into HTML5, and that bill was adding up quickly. Yes.
As
This morning, Bill talked about trying to get others to come on board at the same time to really create this new paradigm. Are you working with other groups to kind of make this the model of the future?
We've been just similar to today. We've had a few papers come fly into Dallas, and they spend a few hours with us, and we kind of just sit and do Q&A for a lot of time. But we haven't formally kind of taken it out as a road show. I think part of what we understand is there are a lot of ways to do it. But I mean, boy, I wish everyone would kind of would jump on board with us. But it sounds like there's definitely a groundswell and a movement of going in that direction. But I think, boy, there's still a lot of people who are afraid of taking the plunge. So that's why we're going to probably be sharing a lot more data over time. I will tell you, and I didn't want to put it in writing, but we have seen about 2,200 digital subscription packages since we've launched as of, and that was 22 days into it. So you do that math times a blend of $10 a month or $17 a month, and we're going to see already over about $250,000 in circulation revenue that we didn't have before.
Do you have a percentage of which was just iPad only versus full digital?
The iPad only was about a third of it. We've been very surprised at how many. We did not think, and Jim Maroney was on record as saying, I know no one's going to pay to use our website. This is more about the apps and the tablet and not blocking that Safari browser to go here. And we've been amazed. We have about 15% of people who've just bought the site-only package. They're not even. It just shows. You just never know until you go there. But
with all the stats you're collecting, I'm curious if there's been any bleed over into the types of pitches you're getting for story content. I mean, are the reporters or the editors really looking at that? I mean, or are they looking at what's getting the most hits, or is anyone protecting the spinach journalism, the stuff that they should know or they want to see?
I don't know if it has permeated down to the what stories they want to cover. I think we're still early on about it to where every day each section level editor is having a conversation where they go in and show the omniture traffic. I mean, we've put a dashboard report together which says, here's who is the highest, here's who the lowest. I mean, it is a scoreboard now every day. And I know specifically in our sports, I mean, sports for us is about a 7 million page view a month section. And we have columnists now that we're doing this reporting that are just scared to death. And they're scared, and they're just, the complaints about, I don't get as many letters, I'm not getting as much interaction with the reader, and but it's also, I guess, leverage for, those columnists who know darn well how much traffic they're bringing to us, but it's, I don't know. I mean, we're trying to find a way to make it a friendly and healthy competition rather than, boy, you're great and you suck,
Well, I thought you said that you didn't care about page views. If you have writers coming to you and complaining that they're not getting as much people or whatever you said earlier that you didn't care about, perhaps those people are engaging a certain type of audience that is more attractive than I mean, if you're going to go away from this metric of page views, how do you apply it to judging a journalist, but you're not judging it on the overall? I mean, there's a little bit of a dichotomy here of needing to judge some sort of value other than traffic that you have built a foundation on.
It's not the only metric, Rex. I mean, but it is a the page view consumption, and the I mean, part of it is it may be you're right. I mean, we get down to how often are they coming back? I think part of what I think where we really get down to, I mean, it's just like it's the same way I evaluate a salesperson. You know, you can either be making the most sales calls, or you close the most deals, or or you have the most accounts, or you make the most money. There's a few different ways to kind of look at them, but I think the way that we're looking at the columnists is page views and just how much raw traffic do you drive, as well as, though, how many of the loyalty. You know, one of the big factors we're looking about with them as well on a lot of our pathing is how, out of our loyal readership base, how many of people that are coming back to them day after day after day after day, versus some columnists where they may just get more of that flyby traffic of people who jumped in off a search engine. And
I guess what I'm asking about is, if you're going to head down that path, that's exactly what I believe you have to be able to do. Does that writer generate the activity that the advertiser wants? They may be fewer, but they may be people who bought BMW. So that person has got to be rewarded or taken care of differently than someone who may get a lot, but those people aren't doing the kinds of, they're not making the expressions or doing the purchasing or clicking to the right thing. And if you're going to go to the path that you're talking about, I think just logically you're going to have to start thinking in different metrics across the board and judging the value of content, not just the traffic. That's perfectly right.
I guess if I say respectfully, I agree and I disagree. I mean, I think the hard part is, part of what we do realize is that if these people are not driving a meaningful mass of loyal traffic, they may not be part of our team, down the road, because we can't afford to do that anymore. I mean, this is what's amazing about the difference in print.
I'll try one more time. The people who will pay for a subscription may pay for that person rather than the people who won't pay who like another person.
Mm-hmm.
So among your readers, you've already said the entertainment writer has a big, deep-pocketed following, so you've decided probably it's not going to drive as much mass as something you would do about the Dallas Cowboys or whatever, but you've identified that audience is of value, so you're going to not judge it on raw mass of how many people come to that site, because you know the people that come to that site are very valuable.
Yeah, it's a combination of volume and loyalty of reader. I think exactly to your point, though, if that loyalty does not fit a niche that is marketable and can drive cash flow, then it probably won't be a part of our future strategy. But you're right, you need to look into that qualitative pocket of the audience that they're driving, and I'm not just talking about the ad dollars, I'm talking about the qualitative pocket of, is it a differentiated audience? As we're building apps, I think one of the questions Bill asked last night is, well, what are you going to do to go get the 35-year-old audience? And it's going to have to be very separate. Part of what we may do with some of them is say, okay, you've got a real loyal following here, but maybe that content is pulled out and moved over into a niche app or moved somewhere else. I mean, it's a game, and it's but I mean, to the point is, we have to be driving large enough, meaningful audiences that we can monetize as a company.
You mentioned earlier that you're not focused that much on SEO. Is that something that you'll consider in the future also?
I think that we're very focused on SEO inside the DMA. I mean, I think that we're not as to focus on SEO at this point. I mean, it's one of the main ways that people enter into our content. I think part of at this immediate juncture in it, we've really not left the search engines out, but I think we're just dialoguing and debating on. I mean, part of I think what we ultimately just need to figure out is, how do we drive more search traffic inside the market for more of a sampling than just saying, oh, it's search all over the country who can come get us. I mean, there's so many different tools out there, whether it's a search engine or whether it's something like an Outbrain or something that you plug into your site that can drive people from all over from an SEO standpoint.
Oh, we got time for one more.
Yes.
As you were going down this path and you built this model, how many people did that allow you to hire to build your
we didn't hire in terms of, I mean, any new FTEs were not created for it. There were FTEs that were shifted from the newsroom over to this group. Some of them came from existing staff who were just very much showed that they were cutting edge. They had been doing so many things that were progressive, and then some of them, I mean, geez, it was amazing, Jack. I mean, we had a woman, young woman who's 24 years old who was sitting on a web team on what Cassie Clark on our what we call Neighbors Go, a hyper-local team, and it just turned out the more we just kept learning from her, she came out of that group, and she's now our number 2 person on tablets, and she is just blowing us away with it. I mean, she's very, very good. But no, we did not add any new positions. It was just shifting, existing positions into this area. Yes?
It's not a question, it's an observation. That you dropped only 38% page views says that you did a pretty good job when you priced this product. And that's a vote. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. I think the one thing that I think that helped that considerably too is everyone who had a print subscription or print relationship with us overall had access to the site if they went in and authenticated their subscription. And we've had over 72,000 people go through that authentication process to go in and that's helped considerably as well.
Nobody knows exactly how to do this, so we're all experimenting. So I'm glad to have that part of your feedback.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
I think we're going to take a brief break and set up for another Skype session until we come in. Bio break. Nice job. I really like what you're doing. I like the approach you've taken from the press.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Nice job.
Well, thanks.
I think a lot. I think it must have helped you a lot to have a diversity of background when you came into this job.
Well, I think back. When I think back to my television days, a lot more just in the world of finite inventory and than I have in my time in newspaper. But it's been fun.
Good for you.
Well, thank you.
Good for you. Great presentation.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Hope you have a good trip back.
Thank you.
Again, I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a calendar.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks. I really did enjoy it.
But this puts a finer point.
I think we've had a pretty fine one.
No, I think this takes it to.
You think so? Oh, I think it's been there, and I just think
Yeah, that's why.
nobody paid attention.
Come on. There we go. Oops. Yep. Hey, Sasha. Oh, wait. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I didn't have my my speaker plugged in just yet, so sorry for the confusion. We were running a little bit behind there, but how are you doing today?
Good. Just plug my headphones in.
Hey, Grant.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, I'm sorry that you won't get to hear mine. I know.
Hi.
So, how are things out west today?
It's a beautiful day in LA.
Huh? Good. Well, it's a lovely day here in Nashville, as usual. I'm just waiting. Yeah. It's good. It's been a really good discussion this morning. We had a really great presentation by Bill Talent, and got things rolling. And Grant Moise just got done from the Dallas Morning News, and that was interesting. He talked a lot about his paywall and how they went about making those decisions. So that was really good. So they're taking a quick break right now, and they'll be back in here in about 5 minutes and ready to talk to you.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I will just leave you hooked up here. I'm going to plug you back into my big speakers. Chris, are we up? Can you just...
Cool.
Yep, good. I just wanted to make sure our speakers were picking you up, but we're good.
Do you guys have a you have a video projector set up there?
We have a projector. Are you trying to? Do you have a presentation or something you're gonna?
Yeah. I have slides and then.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we're good.
Cool.
So we'll just fly right through the computer here.
All right, cool. And just the format on the panel. So are there? I still ended up confused at the end of the day with the. Are there a couple of us on the panel on the hour-long panel, and who else is on it?
That's a good question. Jack Lale can talk to you about that. Let me go grab Jack real quick. Hang with me.
All right. Cool. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, we just have you by yourself. Is that gonna be okay?
Oh, okay, that's fine. For some reason